Good morning, welcome to Morning Review. This is Kim speaking on Monday, the 7th of November. So, looking at the euro dollar first, and with all these currencies, there's been some price action through the Asian session there as the markets broke open. News had broken that the FBI had uncovered the thousands of emails, and it turns out that they were mostly duplicates of what had already been found, and so there's no case to be answered. So, swung the political tension a little bit away from Hillary, but at the same time, there's still a lot of pre-voters that have already voted on what they've heard. So the markets, there's no definite conclusion to any of this, and whilst there's still obviously many to vote, it could still be quite a close-ish thing. But the market's obviously marked in the fact that it's not possibly as bad as it was leading into the vote tomorrow. So we've seen a bit of a correction there on the euro, as I say, and the pound, etc. Where are we heading for now? We're already below the weekly pivot on the euro. Does look weak from this pattern. It's got a gap up there now. Any retracements, and you would look to see that gap filled at some stage. But what would cause a retracement at this point? Well, I guess anything really. Well, if we start seeing it sell off some more, retracements may give us opportunities to see it sell off some more. I think there may be a bigger correction yet to come, but I think the markets will stay. I was expecting a very quiet day today, and I think the markets may stay choppy until the news is out, and then we'll get some direction and possibly a bit of trend for a while. Of course, the US dollar may gain from a Clinton win, and it would then the focus then comes back to the dollar, the potential interest rate increase in December, which is not that far away now, of course. So at the moment, what I'll be looking for here really moves back to the 60.21 with the shorter ball for me. Has sort of air kissed it earlier on through the Asian session there. I actually went through it, but what am I talking about? There we go. So it did actually go through it, but may on the intraday basis or even like hourly eights may give an opportunity to short here. Pivot wise, I don't think the daily pivot's likely to come into play unless some other news suddenly pushed out there and created another panic. They are 56.7 pips away at the moment, so it's quite a long way away on the euro, for example. Okay, not much else to be said on that. Let's have a look at the cable. And it is one thing to bear in mind here is the day after non-farm payrolls, which is generally relatively quiet. Bearing in mind there's no significant news out today. There are some Eurogroup meetings running starting today, which may create some or you may get some ad hoc speakers coming out from that. But otherwise, there's nothing in terms of data. So the pound, pretty similar picture in terms of the gap down. So there's the potential always of the gap. We did have, but on both these markets, we did have a sort of a counter rally, which didn't last for very long. Would have been fantastic sell points there if you were up and about. But a bit of support on cable into its 4-hourly 21 at the moment. But the weekly pivot's not far below, which would, for me, make a decent target. We could be, I mean, that weekly pivot looks like a reasonable target. In terms of looking at it from an hourly perspective, well, sell points may come from the 8 moving average, the 21, a bit further up there if it just runs through. As I say, there is the potential. The gap there is, of course, the daily pivot above us, but we've moved a long way off of that. How far are we? I've not really seen too many days where it's pulled back 90 pips, but anything can happen in these crazy markets. But I've got more. Particularly with Theresa May sounding so strong for Brexit yesterday, I think the pound in particular has got more downside potential. Regardless of what the court says, I think it will be pushed through, methinks. Okay, dollar yen, well, it's a big gap up, of course, and pushing up. It's already above its weekly pivot, so any correction makes it actually come back to its weekly pivot. It's got weekly and daily, I believe, below there. Yeah, daily way down there. So it'd be a big correction there. Again, bounce points could be the hourly 8s, 21s for intraday traders there. There is a bit of divergence running through on the euro dollar yen rather. Actually, just need to check to see if I've missed anything running on the upper time frames. No, because it didn't really. No, it's okay. I was just checking that we're not seeing anything like that on the bigger time frames of the others. So there is, I mean, that initial spike, there's a bit of sort of divergence in move. There is the potential, as I say, with the dollar yen always, that we could come back south. We've got the weekly pivot below here, so any bigger moves that could be hit, but in the main, I would remain relatively bullish on it. Aussie dollar. So whatever happened to the Aussie dollar? Has it been asleep all this time, or has my chart feed died? There you go. I'm just checking it over. I have actually got a feed. Yeah, the feed is there. There's no gaps on my data for some reason. No explanation to why this hasn't moved as well, unless there is actually some data missing here. It looks like 21 is not barely moved, flatlined. In that case, well, the way the Aussie dollar's coming down, it could be coming back down towards its weekly pivot. It's just quite contrarian. I would have expected something more than that, unless my data, as I say, unless my data's gone completely out of sync on the Aussie. Canadian dollar a little bit more to be expected, although it gapped down, it's rallying back up now. I thought with oil solutions and discussions, we've seen this reversal on a daily point of view, already pushing up, back up there. Obviously not enough to help the Canadian dollar out at the moment, and it's heading back up north there at the moment. Weekly pivot could be well online there. It's really back into where it was on Friday. For me, it makes it very difficult to be looking for trade, but it has got a weekly and daily pivot back above there, which could be draws if it can get through these 21s and 34 there. If it starts pushing through there and continues, well, it could, as I say, head back. It'll continue to head up that way. So, game of two halves really. Euro, pound, and yen all showing what we'd expect a bit more. I'm saying that the yen. Probably not what we were expecting so much. We've expected yen strength actually, and well, there you go. Bit of an odd pickings this morning. Sorry, no, that's right. Yen weakness is right. Beg your pardon. I'll talk out loud. So that's all fine actually on those three currencies. The Aussie and Canadian dollar not necessarily working quite the same. Or is it Canadian? Beg your pardon. I'm getting it into a brain. Don't know why the Canadian dollar went stronger. Maybe on the discussions of all there. Sorry, it's what's thrown me. It's gone the wrong way. Okay, that's pretty much it for me. It is doing the right thing now, weakening relative to the US dollar. Right, that's it for me. Have a great one. News-wise today, as I say, nothing news. No news out there apart from we'll be watching the US elections and anything that comes from the Eurogroup meetings. Thanks.